Well, Ben, thank you for coming up to Washington Heights.
Yeah.
We are in one of the jewels of New York City, the United Palace Theater.
I couldn't believe this place existed. You feel the nostalgia from floor to ceiling.
This is a palace.
Yeah, it really is.
Palace.
I don't know if they still do movies here, but it would be
They
great
do.
to see.
Well, they
do
still-
they?
yeah, they
My
still-
God, it'd be amazing to see a movie here.
It's really one of the most incredible theaters we have, and it's kind of a New York secret.
The United Palace opened then as the Loew's 175th Street Theater on February 22nd, 1930. You were going to come in, pay your 25 cents for a ticket, and get some sort of live musical production on stage, vaudeville comedy, newsreels, maybe a cartoon or a short, and then the main attraction for the day.
This is one of 5 Wonder Theaters that were built by the Loew's Corporation between 1929 and 1930.
Each one of these Wonder Theaters was about the same size, about 3,500 seats. Each one was just a temple to entertainment, with cinema being the pinnacle of what entertainment was back then.
Just talking about opening day alone, it was kicked off with a huge parade that filled Broadway, led by 1,000 Boy Scouts.
It was a banner day for New York City. The street was just filled with human beings.
And then the main feature that day was actually a film called Their Own Desire, starring Norma Shearer and a young Robert Montgomery.
Haven't you any heart at all?
But really was the idea of total entertainment for 1930 when there really wasn't any other entertainment to speak of. The architecture certainly captures everybody's imagination. You walk in and you feel special just because you're in this building.
It was done by architect Thomas Lamb, one of the foremost theater architects of the time. Also did the Ziegfeld Theater, now Ballroom in Times Square. And Harold Rambusch was the interior decorative specialist for all 5 of these theaters, and he also worked on the original Roxy Theater in Times Square and the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. Most folks think this is called a Wonder Theater because it is big and grand and beautiful and wonderful, and those things are true. But it's actually really called a Wonder Theater because it houses a Robert Morton Wonder organ built into the architecture that's currently being restored. Altogether, there are about 1,800 pipes and 30 sound effects.
The Wonder organ was, at the time, one of the most elaborate contraptions that humankind had ever created. And that was really the secret behind the Loew's Wonder Theaters. Let's create a spectacle. When the audience first walks in, they forget their worldly troubles there at the threshold, and then their imagination is ripened for whatever they're going to experience once they get inside and see that light hit the screen.
Because this theater has been around 95 years, it's seen a lot of history. This really thrived as a Loew's Wonder Theater from 1930 all the way until 1969, when it was actually threatened to be potentially demolished.
The factors that really played into the demise of the golden age of cinema. One, you had that thing called television. It was also the Supreme Court ruling that broke up the studio's monopolies. That was the advent of the multiplexes. The fate of the United Palace kind of hung in the air. We have 3,400 seats, and you certainly weren't getting anywhere near that number of people coming to see whatever that week's release may have been.
One of the last screenings here as a Loew's was actually Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. And fortunately for this building, in the audience of one of the last 3 screenings here was a very popular televangelist named Reverend Ike.
Frederick Eichenkoder. And he was watching the movie, and he was enchanted with the space, and he decided that it was the perfect environment for his church.
He, with his church, saved the building from demolition, did the first stage of restoration after being 40 years of a Wonder Theater, and then thrived as sort of a megachurch for a few decades. Of course, restoration's been going on since 1969, when it changed hands from the Loew's.
When I first moved to Washington Heights, I found out about the United Palace opening its doors for the local arts community, and it made all the sense in the world to bring that effort and mission into these walls.
It has been reborn as not only a church, but also this cultural center and community center for our neighborhood.
Our good friend and patron, Lin-Manuel Miranda, and his family really helped kickstart the movie program here.
I ran Luis Miranda's community newspaper called the Manhattan Times. And with that came Luis Miranda's son, Lin-Manuel Miranda.
My wife's grandmother used to bring her to church here when it was Reverend Ike's church. But I never came into this building until 2013 when it sort of became a cultural center again.
So when I started here at the United Palace, it happened to be the 5-year anniversary of when In the Heights debuted. We brought in Lin and his father to see the space.
The first time I walked in here, I just couldn't believe I'd been walking by this jewel all my life and never gone inside.
We did the 5-year anniversary concert of In the Heights, and a few days later, I said, Lin, you've got this theater in your neighborhood. What do you want to do? And Lin said, let's return the movies to the United Palace.
And so we started running a movie series.
What we try to do with the movies is really have the movies come alive for folks.
Every year, we pick 5 or 6 movies. I go and find a guest, and we've had everyone from Steven Spielberg to Spike Lee.
We try to reinvent going to the movies like they did back in 1930 and through the 40s and into the 50s, where there's a little bit more entertainment than just the main feature.
And we do that many different ways. We always have a live element to a screening because we want to honor that past. So maybe it's a little musical production that somehow ties into the movie.
And those are free screenings to the community. So it's a way of just having another community gathering and using this incredible theater for what it was made for, to show incredible films.
You can watch anything you want on any size screen that you want. You can't feel a movie until you're in a theater like this, shoulder to shoulder in the dark with strangers who find common connection with you in the moment of getting lost in a movie.
There is something special about seeing movies at the Palace. Everyone comes here because they want to see this on the big screen. We watch so many films at home these days. So to have a communal experience is a joy. The fact that we have this world-class theater in our neighborhood is incredible.
Everybody is welcome. Everybody can find their story in the movies. That means a lot, to feel like you've got a special space where you're welcome and see yourself reflected in your friends and neighbors.
I think of the quote from Ghostbusters when Venkman casually says, oh, they don't make them like they used to. And Dan Aykroyd's like, no, they never made them like this. That's how I feel about the United Palace Theater, and incredibly lucky that it's in our neighborhood.